So we have two speakers tonight. We have a speaker from the Philadelphia Visitor Center Corporation, Maita. They're interested in collaborating with the APT tour guides. And so I'm not even sure what that looks like. So they're going to talk a little bit about what that will look like. Literally like 5 minutes, maybe 5 minutes for questions, because we want to get to Charlotte, our main speaker tonight. But we wanted them to come in. They also have a handout. It's over here. Okay. So Sam's going to pass out. This is Sam here. He's going to pass out the handouts. And yeah, and then we'll see what they have to say and if we have questions. So let's have a nice warm welcome for Maita. Is that how you say it, Maita? Maita. Maita. So this is Maita. Nice warm welcome for Maita.
Thanks so much, Marianne, and thank you everyone for allowing us to be added to the agenda. Oh, great. How's this, guys? Great. Awesome. Thank you so much. So, yeah, we really appreciate being added to the agenda at the last minute. My name is Maita Soukoup. I'm the Vice President of Experience and Engagement at the Visitor Center. So, what that experience is visitor services and engagement is marketing. So, I'm responsible for our visitor services and our visitor information desk, as well as promoting the visitor center to folks coming to the city or planning their trip here. Um, so I know that you guys had the privilege of meeting our new CEO, Catherine Ott Lovell, back in February. And I'm just here to follow up and to introduce ourselves and let you guys know that we're going to be coming regularly just as participants in the meeting so that we can keep the dialogue going and hear firsthand what's happening in your world so we can respond accordingly. Oh, you're welcome. What's the least we can do? Um, so to that end, we do have a brief survey that we put together with the goal of understanding what the needs are of the city's tour guides and the folks who attend these meetings so that we can respond and better serve you moving forward. So there's a couple questions on storage at the IVC. Would you benefit from having locker space in our facilities? Like, you can sort of see where our heads are, but there's enough, but we'd also like to hear, we don't know what we don't know. So how can we help you? What are the things that you experience on a day-to-day that the visitor center could help you with? Our survey, we have a digital version of this survey. So I'll share it with Marianne if we could include it in a future e-newsletter and get anyone who isn't here to complete it online. That would be awesome. Yeah, this is really just the first chance for us to start this dialogue with you guys and help you out any way we can. I know we're in Old City now, but just to make sure everyone knows, we have 4 open visitor center physical locations now. The Independence Visitor Center at 6th and Market, as well as the Parkway Visitor Center on the Art Museum apron. And we're running a small Love Park Visitor Center next to the round building. It's the little kiosk there. So all 4 of those locations sell tickets, promote tours, and connect visitors with things to do in the city and region. So if you run a tour and you have a brochure card or a rack card and it's not in our visitor center, please know that that is, we'd love to have it. There's no cost for promoting your tour or what you're doing in our locations. And we're only as good as the experiences that we're connecting visitors with. So we need to promote all the great stuff you're doing because it keeps folks coming in the door. And just to end on a piece of really positive news, visitation is way up this year across all, yeah. And that's a credit to everything that you guys do and the commitment and dedication you have. And it's also international visitation is really starting to rebound. So we're in the middle of thinking of some creative ways to deal with translation, some AI technology solutions to help us communicate better with visitors. And these are all things that we want to share and cascade down to the tour guide community. So again, in that survey, if the wish list question, the last question is like, is there anything else? It's like, what would you wish that the visitor center would be able to do for the tour guide community? Please let us know. And I'd like to introduce my colleagues and then take some questions.
Hi, I'm Walter. You won't see me on camera. I'm sorry. That's okay. I'm the marketing manager for the visitor center. You may have known Ashton Sewell. Oh, can they hear me now? Oh, look at that. Sorry, you for the folks in the room have to hear me speak twice. Oh, hi, dozen people. I'm Andrew Alter. I'm the marketing manager for the Philadelphia Visitor Center. It's so great to meet you all. I work daily to connect visitors with incredible experiences, and I'd love to be able to tell everyone that walks through the door about your amazing tours. So I look forward to meeting with everybody here and the folks that are hybrid, meeting with you later on. So thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Samuel Warner. I'm the Visitor Experience Operations Coordinator at the Philadelphia Visitor Center Corporation. I work with Aida and Andrew on the same team. I work with our ticket partners, also coordinate the Philly Flash, which most of you are familiar with. And if you're not, thank you. It's a transportation shuttle that runs daily in the summer and on weekends in the fall. I know some people in the building at the moment, so I am always building and connecting our current ticket partners and also trying to bring on new ticket partners. Like Maita said, we're always looking to promote new tours and attractions throughout the city.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Andrew. Um, and with that, I'll just say Sam has come equipped with two very interesting things for you guys. We have Flash season partner passes. If anyone doesn't have either a SEPTA card or a senior citizen transportation card, we will give you a free Flash season pass. So anyone who that's eligible for that, make sure you can ride the Flash for free, courtesy of the visitor center. Sam has those. And we also brought menus from Liberty Garden, which is the new beer garden that we opened on Independence Mall right across from the visitor center at Fifth and Market. So we'll share the menu with you, and I would just extend a personal invitation to everyone here. If you would like to dine at the Liberty Garden and you haven't had a chance, or if you just want to connect with me or the team on anything, reach out and we'd be happy to buy you a drink and a meal at Liberty Garden, show you the space, and introduce you to and give us a chance to hear more about what you're doing. So with that, we have the menus and the flash passes up there. I hope everyone takes a minute to complete the survey, and I look forward to seeing you next month. Thank you very much.
We want to get started with our main speaker, but Maita and Andrew and Sam are going to stay for the meeting. So if you have questions, we can, you can ask them at the end. So, Mike, did you want to introduce Charlotte? Oh, okay. I was not prepared to introduce. Something's going on with that. All right, hold on one second here. All right. Okay, so tonight we have Charlotte Cohen. You guys can all hear me? I feel it's really loud. Charlotte Cohen, who will speak about the Association for Public Art and Art in the Public Realm. talk will cover, well, I won't talk about the talk yet. We'll get to the talk when you'll hear the talk. Charlotte has worked in the public art field for over 20 years and joined the Association for Public Art as executive director in August 2023. In 1996, she became the director of New York City's Percent for Art program, Department of Cultural Affairs, where she commissioned dozens of artists, including Alison Saar, whose Swing Low, a memorial to Harriet Tubman in Harlem, was the first public monument to a Black woman in New York City, and worked with Merle Leiterman, Merrill Lauderman Eugelis on the master plan for Fresh Kills landfill. Charlotte was responsible for developing policy and planning in partnership with many city agencies. Later, as Fine Arts Officer and Urban Development Manager of the U.S. General Services Administration, Charlotte's managed projects in the New York City metropolitan region, across New York State, the Caribbean, and elsewhere, including Robert Mangold's large-scale stained glass window project for the U.S. Robert H. Jackson Federal Courthouse in Buffalo, New York. In addition to her work with artists, she also oversaw the care of the historic fine arts collection in the region. Charlotte went on to become executive director of Brooklyn Arts Council, where she designed and implemented the agenda and vision of Brooklyn's foremost nonprofit cultural organization supporting artists. She energized the organization's commitment to equity and diversity in all aspects of programming and staffing, and ensured the advancement of forward movement during COVID. As interim executive director at City of Asylum in Pittsburgh, Charlotte worked with writers exiled from their countries of origin and managed the organization's performing arts programs and a bookstore dedicated to translated and international authors. Charlotte ensured the organization's programmatic, financial, and operation stability during its international leadership search. And with no further ado, can we have a warm welcome for Charlotte Cohen?
How's that? Can you hear me all right? Good. All right. Okay. Closer. It is a pleasure to be here. I am really so glad to be with you all. I celebrated my 1-year anniversary at the Association for Public Art just a few weeks ago. So I've been getting to know Philadelphia. I went to junior high school in Bella Kinwood, so I have like this much street cred. But I remember coming into the city, as a 14-year-old on my own, starting to be able to do that and explore. And I remember Philadelphia even then. So it's just been such a pleasure to be back and to really learn about the ecosystem here for arts and culture and the great history. And the Association for Public Art has a really huge stake in the history of the city. It was founded 153 years ago, almost 152, we can say, in 1870. Fairmount. That founding was at a moment when Fairmount Park was getting up and running, and it was the first nonprofit organization dedicated to public art in the country. So another first for Philadelphia. I'll get into some of these topics a lot more as we go on, and we can also go back if you have questions. But we are involved with We're involved with commissioning, preserving, bringing art to Philadelphia. We've been, over the years, an advocate for many different issues in terms of the arts and in public space and advocacy. Our board of directors was involved with establishing the Benjamin Franklin Parkway, the Philadelphia Museum of Art, and other anchor institutions and development of let's say, urban design and development in Philadelphia. Here, you're just looking at some of the projects, which I'd be happy to get more involved with explaining, but I want to give you just an overview of the organization first. One of the things we do that's been really important over the years, aside from bringing art to the city in many different ways, through commissioning artists, through purchase, through donations, is that we also care for a citywide collection of primarily sculpture, some of which we have owned over the years and donated to the city, some of which the city owns and we care for. The Ellen Phillips Samuel Memorial Site on Kelly Drive, just north of the boathouse houses, is one example of a cluster of 17 sculptures that we commissioned through a really interesting process, which you may not know about. But it was through our benefactress, Ellen Phillips Samuel, who dedicated money to establish a site at that site to to um, honor the progress and history of the United States. And those 17 sculptures were commissioned through a process of 3 international art competitions. In 1939 and 1940 and 49 to artists' works at the Philadelphia Museum of Art in those years. And from that, these 17 or so artists were commissioned for that site. So that site developed over many decades over the years. And sorry, can you sit closer because they're having a hard time? Oh, okay. How's that? Let's see if that's going for you. As you step back, you get. Okay, let me know. I'll step forward if I need to and speak up. So one of the responsibilities that we've taken on, so we commissioned all those works and then donated them to the city. Paul Craig designed the landscape that surrounds those sculptures. There are 3 different terraces built over the years. And there's some architectural design and landscape, and as you probably all know, it's just a spectacular site right on the Schuylkill River. We conserve those works. We take care of them every single year. We take care of the landscaping and the lighting. And this is a partnership with the city and with the Parks Department and the Fairmount Park Conservancy. So everything we do is in partnership. Everything we do in the public realm, all of us, has to be in partnership. And that's one of the main tenets of our organization, which is why it's good to meet all of you and to talk to you a little bit about the organization. I meant to ask at the very beginning, how many of you are familiar with the organization and the work that we do, or knew us as maybe the Fairmount Park Art Association before the name changed to indicate a broader sort of scope of work. And that was in 2014. So over the years, aside from those more traditional sculptures that you've seen and the conservation and maintenance of that work, we have also initiated different programs, including Form and Function, which commissioned Jody Pinto's Fingerspan Bridge in the Wissahickon Park and Martin Puryear's Pavilion in the Trees, and also Sia Armajani's work, which was installed at the Fleischer Memorial, is now in the collection of the PMA. That was one initiative, and then New Landmarks was the second one. That was in the 80s, and then in the 90s, New Landmarks, which matched artists with different neighborhoods in Philadelphia. And the artists were commissioned to work in conjunction with those neighborhood groups. And it was a kind of ideas competition around what communities might want in terms of art in their public spaces. And out of those proposals that we received, around 5 of them built in those specific neighborhoods. And that was about a 10-year to develop those works to have them installed. there's Jody's Fingerspan Bridge on the left. You can see that at the upper corner. And then some of the work that we've done more recently has been what I think of as spectacles on the parkway. So you may have seen Rafaela's image that you see there. Also, Jennifer Steinkamp's kind of globe project on the parkway, and Saigo Zhang's uh, little bug. What were they called? Lightning bugs, I think. That drove like pedicabs that drove around the parkway at night, and these were nighttime projects to attract people to that public space at a time of the day when they might not have typically been there, and to have some fun and to enjoy that space. And then Candy Coated is a Philadelphia artist who was commissioned to do an installation on the parkway, and that was sort of one of the projects that kicked off the oval activities in the summertime at the parkway. So as I've been saying, we have done these outdoor sculptures and temporary work. So both permanent over a long period of time, 150 years or so, right up to the current day. And you see on the bottom right is Rachel Shu's project, which is currently in Maya Park on the parkway, right in front of Parktown Place apartment buildings. So this was a very interesting initiative that I started. Had been thinking about what could we do on the parkway that would be something for Philadelphia artists. I really wanted to address and provide an opportunity for Philadelphia artists for a temporary commissioned work. And so we put out a call for entry. We were lucky to work with 4 wonderful jurors. This was all very public. You know, the jurors were known and attracted some of the artists who applied. We got quite a number of proposals, and they varied tremendously. And I really thought that what would happen is we would select an artist whose work was very large and bright and colorful and blingy. And in fact, we got the opposite. We unanimously, everyone working on this competition thought that Rachel Shu's work was the right project at the right time at that place. I think I see. Oh, I don't think I have another slide of it here, but let me see if I had one. No, just that one. Sorry, that one on the bottom right. But what it is a very quiet and contemplative in-ground sculpture that consists of that round work with river stones, polished river stones that are inspired by reflexology paths in Taiwan, which is where her family is originally from. And she has created indoor sculpture, but she had never done anything outside. And I think for artists working outdoors, it's a very different experience when you think about what the requirements are for work that's going to live outdoors and be seen by anyone who happens to walk by, rather than being in a very, dedicated, intentional space like a museum. So this work is very beautiful. It's very touching. You're meant to take your shoes off and actually touch the stones and walk on the stones. And that's actually very challenging. It can be painful if you're not used to it. But it's about having that experience and being in touch with something that is challenging to us, but yet we can grow to really enjoy, actually, as you get used to it. And there's a beautiful bridge, bench. It's very contemplative, it's very intimate, and I think it creates a real respite from the parkway, from the city, and gives people a chance to sit and have a quiet experience. So sometimes what you think is going to happen when you work with artists is not what happens. And the thing that does happen is actually the right solution and the right thing. So we also opened up the 3 finalist works for comments. So as you all know, that can be a dangerous activity to ask people for comments, but it was a really great opportunity for us to hear what the public thought about these 3 works that the jurors had selected. And they then interviewed those 3 artists who made more let's say, detailed proposals for them. And Rachel was then selected. And we had over 250 comments from the public, which was much more than we expected. And they were overwhelmingly positive about all of the three projects. So we knew whichever one we chose would be well accepted and loved. And I say this because it's a new initiative for us. We're calling it Art on the Parkway. It was in partnership with the Parkway Council. It was part of the Oval Presents work this summer. And we're actually having an artist talk at the Asian Arts Initiative with Rachel. We're having a poetry workshop at the site of her work on September 28th, and the talk is on September 17th. So I think for me in my work, working directly with living artists has been the thing that I've really enjoyed very, very much, and it's the thing I hope to continue to do with the Association for Public Art. So I will just talk a little more about our conservation program, because I think that for all of you, as you move through the city, as you see sculpture that's been outdoors for a long time or other works of art, one of the things we know is that people don't typically tag work if they really love it and enjoy it and if it's well cared for. When work becomes deteriorated and dirty and not looking good, people feel like, those of us who are responsible for that sculpture are not taking care of them, the public, right? Their neighborhoods or the people who could otherwise enjoy that work. So that's when things get tagged and graffitied. Also, during periods of unrest or protest, of course, we know that too. And we have funds for emergency conservation and go in actually and take care of work that's been tagged like that or broken or damaged in any way throughout the year. Um, but these are just some examples of works that we have conserved over the years. That is Maya on the far right-hand side, the sculpture that's in Maya Park. And we've also been doing tours ourselves. We did a wonderful tour here in Old City for the Monument Labs Summit that took place in July. And we got people in to see the Louise Nevelson work at the General Services Administration building, which is not easy to do, to get in there these days. I know from my years at GSA, all the works that had been open to the public when those buildings were open to the public became impossible. And that, that's a real challenge for any public art collection is access. So, a lot of the work I did, for instance, with Percent for Art was commissioning work for schools. And we can think about, well, that's a limited audience and a limited, let's say, access. But then you think about the thousands of children and staff and parents and teachers who go through those schools over the years and get to enjoy that work. So I think that my goal is to put art everywhere, to have artists involved in all aspects of our lives. And I think that they're incredible problem solvers and thinkers in very creative ways that other people don't necessarily come up with the kinds of ideas and approaches to different issues, let's say, or different perspectives that artists have. So Marin Hassinger is the woman on the top and second from the right. And we brought an exhibition of her work to the Ellen Phillips Samuel Memorial last year at around this time last summer. And it was the first time that a contemporary artist's work had been shown there. And they were sort of vessel-like forms, open vessel sculptural forms. And I think that juxtaposition of contemporary art with the older figurative sculpture was incredibly successful. And again, like with Art on the Parkway, we didn't know what the reception would be to that. And sometimes people don't give you, we had a QR code for surveys, but you don't always hear all the comments until we were packing it up and trucking it off and people came by and said, I can't believe it's leaving. I love this work. I don't want to see it go. So I always say with temporary public art, if you don't like it, it'll be gone soon. And if you love it, great. Tell us so we can do more. And that's, that's sort of my approach to that kind of conundrum of what happens when work is temporary. So we also have what we call our Museum Without Walls audio program, which is a very extensive, almost a podcast series, if you will, about sculpture in the city. And we've made segments about over 75 different works. You can go on to Bloomberg Connect's app. I don't know if any of you have seen that, but it is an incredible resource for art in cities around the world, of museums, public art, botanic gardens, art museums, different other kinds of museums and public sites. So it's an app that you download and you can search in many different ways depending on what city you're in or what your interest is. HOFA was the first institution in Philadelphia to join Bloomberg Connects, and we were the second, and we just activated that app I think in April. And what it does for us is gives us access to an audience of millions of people who use that app all over the world, which is pretty amazing. And it allows us. It's not a substitute for a website, but you can get a lot of information about the organization there. But it is a substitute for the app that we were using for the Museum Without Walls audio. And it's so much better. And I tell you this because it might be useful for you in the work that you're doing. It geolocates really, really well. It has incredible audio and a really good search, user-friendly search component. So it's been a really, I would say since we've been on it, about 1,200 people have used our Museum Without Walls, access to Museum Without Walls. That's just since this year, right? A few months. And last year, so 1,200 people. Last year, in all of 2023, it was about 250 people. So that just tell you has like quadrupled our user numbers in a very short period of time, which has been great. So these the Museum Without Walls audio provides information about the sculptures. It includes the voices, not necessarily of the artists, but of art historians, neighbors, people who have know the work, live around the work. And so we tried to make it was almost like an NPR kind of produced program, if you will. I don't have any of you listened to any of those segments. Yeah, and they're short. I mean, they're like 3 minutes, 2 minutes. They're very entertaining, if you will, too. We also have an incredible archive, and a great deal of that archive from 1872 to 1976 is now housed at the Historical Society on Locust Street. And we're going to move another kind of tranche of archive material over there. The purpose of that is to make it much more available to the public and to researchers than it is in our office, quite honestly. I mean, you can call us up, we can help you find information if you need it, but I think it just provides much greater access to scholars and researchers and anyone who's interested in the history of art and the development of public space in Philadelphia. And we had our first exhibition ever there earlier this year, which was really fun. And it was about it's the 200th anniversary of the Historical Society. So we were their partner for art and culture. And it was an exhibition about women in public art, the artists, the benefactors, and the sort of administrators, if you will, leaders in public art. And then we commissioned an artist named Zenobia Bailey, who's here in Philadelphia, to make a banner that hung on Locust Street. I thought we had an image of that. Let's see if I can. Yeah, it's the second from the right, and it's an image of a Black man, and her sort of take on this was about the radical Black elite of Philadelphia from around the 1840s to the 1740s to 1860s or so. Really thinking, she had been doing research at the Historical Society about James Fenton and thinking about Black entrepreneurs and business people and educators and doctors and scholars and teachers and artists and artisans. And so this was a kind of homage, if you will, to that, to their work and to their history here in Philadelphia. And she had a wonderful talk at the Historical Society, which is on our website now. And she's quite an incredible artist herself. Did you have a question? Yeah. Come up here.
This is an important question. Yeah, very, I know. The pressure is on.
Mike is yours.
Okay. The question is that you were mentioning about the database you have, the archivist base. What I'm curious about, because I was asked this really peculiar, well, it's not that peculiar, but I was at the first time I was ever asked this, what, how many statues have been uh, diminished or taken away in the Philadelphia tour? So while I'm doing the tour talking about statues and all this, I had no answer to that. And so I was wondering, is there a database for that, in other words? And I think that might be see, this is the first time it ever happened. I don't know how often it's going to happen, that question, but I'm sure it's going to get more and more. I was asked, how many statues have you uh, decommissioned? That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Well, it's a good question because we know in many cities that Confederate sculptures of Confederate generals have been removed, and other works that have been deemed offensive or inappropriate or what have you for whatever reason. Look, we could talk about not just sculpture but public art generally. Think about murals in different neighborhoods that get painted over or not maintained. And I don't think I can answer that question because I don't know the answer, but I don't know. Should we have a database of that? I don't know the answer to that either. I mean, I think you know what the one place to look is at the study that Monument Lab did. It's a huge amount of data about sculpture, but monuments, not all sculpture, but sculpture considered monuments across the country. Have a look at that because that might provide some insights. What we have on our website that we've digitized are our older minute books and annual report. So it's really fascinating to go back and read some of that information. And if you're a history buff, to read about how some of these works came to Philadelphia and why and what happened. And in some, the process has changed tremendously, right? Back in those years, early years, maybe our board members went to Europe and saw something they liked and thought, well, we should have one in Philadelphia. So they would bring it here. And there wasn't a process around what is deemed allowable in public space or not. So now we have a percent for art program. Now we have other methods for bringing art to the city and caring for it. So times have changed as as have the works of art and the ways that we review it and consider it. You know, we didn't have outreach to the public like we just did with Rachel's sculpture in those days at all, right? But I think it is a good, it's a really important question to contemplate as you are going around the city and speaking about sculpture and the public realm around why things are there. I mean, I always think about, you know, who is that general on a horse, and does anyone care any longer who it is? I mean, that is kind of the existential question, if you will, around art. And we all have our personal taste. There, you know, there's no arguing with that. So sometimes it's very hard to get agreement around it too. What's important, what should be kept, what should be maintained, what should be allowed to deteriorate and fall apart and disappear. What murals? I mean, I think particularly with more ephemeral work like painted murals, that's a real issue, right? Because they fade, they chip, they get tagged, they get painted over. And if no one's caring for them, then it's really problematic, you know. But is it better to have those works up or to paint over them if they're really not looking very good any longer and no longer serving the purpose of bringing pride and to a community and beauty to a community? Those are some of the things that I think about when I'm out in the public realm and looking at work, and I'm thinking about, you know, what's the origin story, but also how does it relate to us now in our contemporary society, and I'm very interested in to engaging contemporary artists in that conversation around older work. So those are some of the things that I'm interested in doing at the association, and we will be doing in the future. Is looking at the collection in Philadelphia, if you will, and really having a dialogue with the public about that work, and bringing artists in to contemplate it with us and dialogue with us. I don't know, you may recognize some of these works. There's a Louise Nevelson work, the third from the right, that's now on the UPenn campus, that was moved from the Philadelphia Museum. So that's the kind of thing where we paid for that. We have paid for the conservation of that work. So we've been involved with many different artworks across the city over the years in many different ways, whether we commissioned it or not. We've, you know, and also the advocacy work that we've done, being involved with the Percent for Art program, advocating for that. There's a sculpture, let's see, it's the Lipschitz sculpture on the lower right, which had been commissioned by the city, and Mayor Rizzo at the time was not interested in seeing it completed. We stepped in and paid for the completion of that sculpture. We worked hard to bring the Roy Lichtenstein brush and the Claus Oldenburg clothespin to Philadelphia. So that's some of the work over the years that we've been doing here. And I hope that you've all had a chance to enjoy those things. I know you have. And we have, some of them are on the Museum Without Walls audio tour. So that might be a really good resource for you to tap into and to share with your constituents as well. But I would love to talk with you all if you have questions or just comments about what you see out in the public realm that you might want to talk with me about or learn more about, or talk with one another about. Well, you have me here as a resource also, and also to invite you to use our archive at the Historical Society or in our office. Another resource we have is we have files on many different artists and their work in Philadelphia, not only the works that we've been involved with. And that's been an incredible resource for researchers or even just the curious public as well. So I really invite you to tap us for that information and to look at our website, because we have many different works featured on the website and on the map there. So you can even build a tour, a walking tour from that, or even a virtual tour if you like. but just by looking at our website, if you have interest in sculpture and the history of that work in Philadelphia. Oh, I can repeat.
Okay, so our handheld mic doesn't.
I can repeat the question if you like. Yeah, I'll repeat it. Yeah, just ask the question. I'll repeat it.
And the wireless isn't working. Yeah, we know. Oh, yeah. Not at all.
Just ask the question. I'll repeat it.
What do you consider the most crucial?
The Zoom people can't hear you. You have to come up here. There's like a dozen of us that can't hear anything.
Hang on there, people on Zoom, because we're gonna repeat the question for you.
Question more than it should be, but my question is, what is the major? Is there one major sculpture that you're more concerned about? Like going back to the question that I was asked this afternoon. I was asked, "What is your?" And it was someone from the South. They asked, "Are you getting rid of your sculptures? What is the sculpture you're getting rid of?" And I didn't have an answer, but it came to mind Christopher Columbus. That was initial. That's the first thing that came to mind. Is there something else? You know what I mean? Is there a crucial? Is there one sculpture here that is centered to this whole thing?
You can take the attitude that you love all your children the same, and care for them the same, but let's face it, there are sculptures that are problematic in different ways and at different times in history. So it's a really hard question to answer. For at the moment, I can't think of one off the top of my head. I would reflect that back to all of you who've lived in Philadelphia a lot longer than I have and are probably much more aware of what that work might be. But there are sensitivities in many sectors around work that that one person might consider inappropriate or offensive, and another would not.
Get it. So I have a Zoom one, and I don't, since it's coming from that, I don't need the mic. Is there a catalog of works in the Percent for Art program?
Just say the question again.
Oh, okay. The question is there a catalog of works of the Percent for Art program? That's a fantastic question. Here in Philadelphia, I don't know of a catalog, and I think you'd have to ask the Office of Cultural Affairs, or what's now called Creative Philadelphia, that question. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't seen it on their website. I do know, for instance, in New York City, on the Department of Cultural Affairs website, they do have an inventory of the works in their collection. But I don't know. I have not seen that in Philadelphia. Questions coming up.
So I'm very proud of our Percent for Art program, and I make a lot to do about it. But I'm often asked, what is the criteria for a company to be required to participate in the Percent for Art? And I kind of make things up, but now I want you to tell me the truth.
I would like to know what your answer is. What do you tell people?
I say that if you're a developer and your project is of a certain magnitude and you benefit from a city service, then 1% of your project cost has to be devoted to public art. And I always make the point, not art in someone's boardroom, but art that is always available to the public. How close am I to that?
I think that was pretty accurate. Well done. Yeah. So, Percent for Art programs differ according to the laws of the city or the state, or in the case of the federal government, the federal government. But what you just referred to was the redevelopment percent for art program, which is separate from the city's percent for art program. And the redevelopment program was the first in the country. It started in 1959. Followed by other percent for art programs. I think there are about 350 of them all across the country. So the city percent for art program is activated by capital construction budgets, and 1% is allocated to artists being commissioned for the site of that capital project. And as you said, and I referred to the school projects I worked on that were indoors, and that was a question, like, well, if everyone can't see that work, is it public? And I would say yes, it's for the people who use that facility. So and like in the federal government, where we don't have access to those buildings anymore the way we used to at one time, that now I think some of the work that they're commissioning is more visible from outdoors rather than just for the people in those buildings. That's one solution to that issue. But I think your answer is really quite accurate. Yeah. Okay, Karen's coming up to the mic.
I love public art. I love talking about it. I love incorporating it into whatever tour there is, because I think people like to know what they're looking at. And we have so much to look at. But we have a lack. And we have a lack of women monuments. We have two. We have one in process. That'll be 3. And that's Harriet Tubman. And then we have Marian Anderson, who will be number 4 if she ever gets funded, right? And that's it. And what? The other 2 are Mary Dwyer, who was a Quaker back in the mid 1600s, and she was burned at the stake in Boston. And she's buried in the courtyard at Friends School. And then we have Joan of Arc. That's it. That's deplorable. It bothers me tremendously. I think we should have an effort to fix it, because when you don't have monuments to women, the implication is our women weren't very important. And it's an inference. And it's hard for me walking the apron of City Hall and having all those men. And pardon? Well, I'm talking about women right now, Amy. I'm not talking about men. That's their own problem, right? I'm here advocating for monuments to specific women, not Korean women, or not a table to Karen Silkwood, or somebody like Dawn Staley would be ideal, right? Harriet Tubman is certainly going to be fabulous. But we have to fix it. I think we have to fix that. And I think it takes a recognition and a drive. It's my wish. Thank you.
I do have a comment about that, because what I would say, Karen, to your point, is it really it takes leadership to really move that forward. And in New York City, I think there were 2 actual real women, Eleanor Roosevelt, and I can't remember who the other one was, but there was Mother Goose, and there was somebody else, but they weren't real women. And so that was a really intentional movement on the part of the city government of New York City. So Harriet Tubman was really was the first in that effort, the project I worked on with Allison Starr. Yeah. Yeah.
chat's blowing up.
Oh, boy. Jen,
Yeah. I'm in the AV cave. I need it.
okay.
Take that off. I don't myself in a delay.
All right, so the chat's blown up. So here we go. To add to the comment about women of sculpture from Carol, Stone Age, which is the Native American mother at the beginning of the Ellen Phillips Samuel collection. Then we also have in the parking lot at 8th and Arch with a bajillion reflective panels, a part of the Percent for Art program. At the parking lot on 8th, it's on Arch Street by 8th. It's got a redevelopment project. Okay. All right, I got more. Hold on. Just double checking. Where can we find the Museum Without Walls audio tour? Okay. That's what I wrote them, but I just wanted to make sure. They asked it as I was typing. What is the name of the druid looking sculpture at the east end of the Benjamin Franklin Parkway and who made it? I have a feeling you have tour guides. You're going to get a lot of those questions because we expect that knowledge because that's what we get asked. I'm just reading the question. Okay. And I'm going to read this next one kind of verbatim. I would add that their sculptures, hold on. I would add that their sculptures that have been moved to allow for more public access that were previously located in remote areas, Fairmount Park, Monument to Civil War, Colored War, Stone Age, and likely others. So I think they were saying like add that as a database because that might also interest others. Add to the discussion of monuments of underrepresented or underdeserved groups. Hopefully on chat, I represented your questions well. Sorry, guys.
There was the chariot.
I did
the Rocky.
sit in on remotely on an art commission session where they were reviewing a Percent for Art project that depicted a woman, a historical figure in a neighborhood project, I think at a library. So stay tuned for that one. So I can't remember her name. I apologize, but I did hear that presentation. Yes. Other questions from the chat or from the room? Yeah.
She's correct me. Underserved.
When we come across some public art that is not well taken care of, like is there somewhere we can write to tell them? I don't know if you've ever seen it's at the Target parking lot. If you go all the way down to the beginning of the train tunnel, there's public art down there in that parking lot that's under the Target. And it's like abandoned and dirty, but it's really interesting. And it just feels like bad, like everyone's forgotten it and just left it there. But who could we tell if we find something like that?
That's an excellent question. Sometimes we can help just identify who the owner is, or in that case, I think that was a rail park project done with mural arts, if I'm not mistaken. So we would not take care of it. And that's what I mean about things not being looked after and then disappointing us in the public realm when they're not well cared for. So that, but you can check in with us, right? I think it's APA at Association for Public Art. If you see something, if we know anything about it, we'd be happy to write to you and tell you, or to write to, we do contact folks. We were just talking, when we do see things like that, we were just talking about the Amor sculpture that is faded, and that is a city owned work, and it is the city's responsibility to care for it, and we know the city is strapped for resources, so it's very challenging. It's very challenging. We care for a few dozen works every year that we don't own, but that are owned by the city, and that's our sort of service, if you will, to the city and caring for them. Some at Rittenhouse Square, all over the area. Did you have a question in the back? No, stretching your legs. Yes. Questions coming to the front.
I find it somewhat disappointing how balkanized the art communities are. And I'm wondering, in terms of renovation, because I'm also a guide for the mural arts program, and so we deal with preservation all the time. Is there a possibility that all the forces could come together, at least in terms of their maintenance budgets, to try to centralize uh, maintaining these works of art, so that when someone is out touching up or removing graffiti from a mural, they're also making an observation or maybe fixing, I don't know, the arm of a Civil War soldier, whatever. I'm making that up. But is there a way of maybe centralizing some of this need? Because everyone's strapped.
That is a really huge challenge, and yes and no is the answer. So because we're already doing that, right? We are working with the city to maintain city-owned sculptures, and we're paying for it. There and sometimes we're collaborating. There's a work um, prosperity, law, and justice right at the Mann Center, which we had dedicated some funds to. The city contributed some funds to, and it's been conserved very recently, actually, and that's been in progress. So that's just one example where funds are coming together in that way. But I think you're right. I mean, resources are strapped, and funds are coming from many different sources, especially with city money. I just know from experience that the bureaucracy of getting those funds allocated for maintenance is really hard. It's easier to make things than it is to take care of them. That is always always the case, sadly so. Sadly so. And for instance, in New York City, the capital budget laws do not allow that money, that percent for art money, to be used for maintenance, only for making work. So here we're making all these things. It was very frustrating, making work, hundreds of works and commissioning work, and with no budget to take care of them. That's changed a bit in New York. There is a dedicated budget now. And here in Philadelphia, as I said, we're working with the city with funds that they've provided as well. But it's very all over. Every public art collection faces this. I will say our federal government has the best collections management and conservation and maintenance program I've ever seen. And I don't just say that because I work there, but it's laudable, and it's on their website, and you can look at their policies and procedures for acquisition, deacquisition, what you were talking about, what happens regarding removal of a work, for example, but also in terms of maintenance and care. Sometimes things can be cared for very easily just by virtue of like a power wash. If side of a building is being power washed, I used to work with building managers, come on out and hose down my Saul LeWitt sculpture as well in Buffalo, for instance, or not Buffalo, it was in Syracuse. So there are ways to piggyback on like building maintenance and that sort of thing, for sure. Lawn maintenance, absolutely. Maintenance is not sexy at all. No, no one wants to fund it. No one. I'll repeat that. Let's put the sex in maintenance. That's a good motto. Please help me advocate for that. Really, we really do need the funding, and the city. I don't know what to tell you. Here I don't know, but we are working with the city, and I know Mural Arts also tries to inventory and keep track of their works as well. But it's very hard when it's such a large and a collection that's so dispersed throughout the entire city and so many neighborhoods. I think that's more public art than anywhere with the murals across the city. That they please be cared for. So Karen's saying that she quotes a number of 2,500 works of art in the city, not including murals. I don't know. Where did you come up with that number? We don't know where that number came from. If anyone knows, please tell us.
So 2,500 is maybe over 4,000 since many have been covered by buildings. Oh, well, just murals.
That was, so the 2,500 number for people on the Zoom was 2,500. Karen was saying was not murals. I have heard Jane Golden say that there have been 4,000 murals created and 2,500 are visible, we're being told. Right, just murals. So let's say that adds up to 5,000 works of art. Right. So those are the numbers people are using. I don't know where that 2,500 sculptures or other than murals comes from, because it's not just sculpture. It could also be inscriptions or other sorts of work, porticos or tile, ceramic work, that sort of thing, right? Yeah.
Look at how many City Hall does the well.
Other questions or conversation, comments? All right. Wow, thank you so much.
A big thank you to Charlotte. Are you going to hang around for a few minutes? We just have a few announcements and then people can chat with you. All right, so just have a couple announcements, and then is Judy still on Zoom? Judy, because Judy was going to say, is it possible to get her on to make an announcement to the room? Well, while I make the announcement, see if you can do that. Well, we just talked about this yesterday. So, but if not, she could just say it, and you can just, she can type it up and you can announce it to the room. So first off, so just a couple of announcements before we finish here, and then we'll just have social time. I think probably everyone here read the newsletter this week with the announcement about Josh Silver, who passed away last Thursday. So maybe we'll do something. But I thought maybe right now we could just have like a minute just to kind of stay in peace and remembering his big smile. Okay. For announcements, we have the certification exam. If you're planning to take it, make sure you tell me by, tell me tonight or tell me by Thursday at the latest, because I have to get copies made. I want to make sure I have enough copies for everybody. Of the people here, I know Carol's taking it. Did anyone else here planning to take it Saturday? Dan told me. I think that's all of anybody here. Yeah. So if you're planning to to take it Saturday and you haven't told me, make sure I know so I have enough. My Jewel Johnson, who works with the Black Journey, he has the ear of Council Member Brooks, staff person, who's going to come to a Zoom on Sunday to talk about preservation. They want to make a short list of properties to get preserved in the city. Make sure that council members know that we want these properties saved. So if you're interested in that, I have in the last newsletter, I had my Jules email. You can contact him directly. It's going to be Sunday at 1:00. Yeah, Sunday at 1:00. So contact me if you can't find it, or contact my Joel directly so you can get the Zoom link if you want to participate in that. Bartram's Garden Tour on Monday, I think 1 to 3. Is that right, Mike? You guys know 1 to 3? We still have spots available, $20. So go on the APT store and purchase your ticket if you'd like to do that. Really great opportunity to tour Bartram's Garden with a guide who is John Bartram himself. So it'll be pretty exciting. Also on Monday evening will be the first meeting of the research group for Homecoming 250. So if you are interested in doing a naval or marine tour and you want some help, you want to kind of collaborate with some of your colleagues, Antoinette's facilitating a Zoom meeting on Monday to kind of assign different topics to people to go off on their own, do the research, and then come back together and share research and share ideas. So that'll be Monday. So if you Tuesday, really important, next Tuesday evening, CPR training. So if you want to be trained in CPR and first aid, it's only $30. Normally it's like $60 to $75. So definitely sign up, whether you want to use it while you're on tour or just in general. It's just really good to know CPR and first aid, just for your family or friends and everybody. So really great price, Tuesday at 7, sign up for that. Book club will be Wednesday evening, An American Aristocracy, about, it's like Civil War era. That's usually I read all of them, but I didn't read this one. But that's Wednesday on Zoom. And then our next meeting in October will be Carol Adrienne, who's going to talk about Civil War medicine. So that'll be the meeting in October. And Judy wanted to say some words. Oh, look, there she is.
Can you hear me?
Okay, will you hold the mic? And no worries. No worries. She was going to talk a little bit about Lafayette, with Lafayette weekend, September 27, 28th, that weekend. So she's going to talk about that and about the NFTGA conference that's coming up in January, the National Tour Guide Conference. And let me say before she talks that the board has approved money to subsidize participation in the NFTGA conference. So we won't completely pay for your registration, but if you register by the end of October, we'll see how many people register, and then we will divide the sum we have by the number of people that registered. So you have to register yourself by the end of October. I think it's $395 is the fee to register. And then we will, depending on how many people, maybe you'll get 100, 150, something like that. Okay, so we'll reimburse you for that money. So if you're interested, do that by the end of October. And I'll have info about that in the newsletter. It's going to be fabulous. Okay, so here we'll give this to Jen.
Are we ready? Can you hear me? Hello?
Right. We can hear you on Zoom.
Yeah, I know you can hear me on Zoom. I know. Hello, hello? Okay, so you can hear me? All right, thanks. So just quickly, the Lafayette bicentennial celebration, his 200th return, 200th year return to Philadelphia. It's going to be celebrated September 27th through the 29th. On Saturday is the big event where he'll be coming in by carriage to the mall, and there's a lot of free events going on. So APT's involvement, really not a whole lot, but we will have a table in the north side of the visitor center. And so I have just asked if there's anyone who wants to volunteer, just to kind of man the table, talk about APT. If anyone comes by and has any questions, we will be leaving with walking tours from that area. So it's just going to be 11 through 2 o'clock on both days, Friday and Saturday. So we will have, like I said, a table set up back there. And then the national conference is January 29th through the 31st, with another optional post tour on Saturday, February 1st to Valley Forge. And that's a separate tour, separate pricing, so you can just sign up for that if you want to. As Marianne mentioned, the early bird pricing is $395. That does not include just the conference. It also includes 2 phenomenal dinners. The first night at the Moshulu and the second night at La Familia. It includes 2 lunches as well. So the lunch during the conference and then after the conference ends. So it's going to be Wednesday will be the kickoff with a presentation by Carpenter's Hall, and then we will walk over to the Moshulu, and we have all kinds of really interesting speakers. Everything is out on the NFTGA website. In order to register, I'm sure Marianne will be putting the link. Well, she has been putting the information in the newsletters. You can register on the NFTGA website. And you'll see I keep updating the agenda as I get things nailed down. So you'll be able to see the full agenda as it stands right now. So I hope to see, we should have a really good presence from Philadelphia. Those of you too, I will be asking for volunteers to help lead some tours as we get closer, and know our numbers and know what we're going to kind of do. But at this point, it'll probably be that first day, Wednesday, as people check in and come into the city. We'll offer tours in and around Old City, Society Hill, things like that. Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, so that's everything. So thank you all. And, feel free to chat if you have questions for Charlotte or Maita or Andrew or Sam over there. I'm going to turn this off before we all get